everybody, I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into an all-new episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, just wanted to issue major spoiler alert. We are going to be going over everything that happened in episodes 7, 8, and 9 of Season 2 of Andor. So if you haven't watched those episodes yet, you may want to pause this video, head over to Disney+, check out all 3 of those episodes. They are so worth it. And then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
All right, joining with me to break down everything from Season 2, Episodes 7, 8, and 9 of the Andor series, it's Jon Jon Rico!
Welcome to the rebellion!
Welcome to the rebellion!
Welcome to the rebellion.
Oh boy.
Holy shit. Now, to pull back the curtain a little bit, pull back the shade, reveal a little bit, you watched these before I, got through them, and you wanted to talk about these.
I was ready.
So
yeah,
quickly.
I've been clamoring.
Yeah, all credit to you. You didn't spoil anything, but you did say these are so fucking good. I have to go on record and say I absolutely agree with you after watching them.
Right?
They were you did not oversell
it.
Yeah, oversell it, overrate the episodes or anything like that. These were 3 very solid episodes. Especially the last 2, but all 3 of this chunk, very strong episodes in general. And just, I know I sound a little bit like a broken record, but the level of tension that you get in episode 9 of this chunk, and they have that little added music also, like just going, that just adds even more suspense and tension.
The score is fantastic.
Yeah,
show.
Holy shit. Yeah, it was phenomenal, absolutely awesome. But rewinding a little bit, I believe this is episode 8, might have been episode 7. I know you have stuff up, like talking about this, but I know it's been a running joke from the original trilogy that stormtroopers can't hit anything, and I feel like we got a little bit more of that because when we're at the plaza in Gorman, like right as the Gorman kind of massacre is about to start and everything, we have the looming presence of these groups of stormtroopers, and they looked pretty terrifying the way they did that with I don't know if that was tear gas or just smoke bombs or something coming from behind them and everything. They looked like, to a normal person, that's pretty fucking terrifying.
The riot gear and stuff.
Yeah,
and all the same thing. Yeah, there's a lot of similarities you could put to some real life stuff, to real life parallels.
Right. Yeah. But I will say this: when everything just explodes and there's just hails of gunfire left and right from all different directions, I did not see a single stormtrooper make contact with a person. I know the people that had the riot gear definitely did, and there were laser snipers positioned way up high, and they were showing that they were aiming down the sights and picking off some people.
Yeah,
but I did not.
KX droids were taking now. So
KX droids were fucking just whipping people around.
Jeez.
That was insanity.
Yeah, that was
But I just wanna believe that someone in the writer's room was like, yeah, we're gonna have all these stormtroopers and none of them are gonna hit anyone. Because that was to me the only moment of levity in that entire episode and scene was just me going, did a stormtrooper hit a single person? We didn't get, if they did, we did not get a shot of a single stormtrooper hitting a single person. So yeah, I just was like I said, that's how my brain kind of copes, is looking for just anything that I can zero in that has a little bit of humor to it. And I was just like, yep, stormtroopers didn't hit anything. But
Makes me think of how they zero in on that one stormtrooper that shoots Brasso in
right,
episode 3, because like he's the one that actually hit his shot.
exactly. He's the only one, and of
Yeah,
course
and
it
then we
was
don't even actually see the shot hit, but we like we're gonna give him
right,
his shot and just see him take the shot off screen.
right, exactly. But
It's like, did he really hit
yeah,
it?
it was the gunman on the grassy hill.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so much to go over in these 3 episodes because, like I said, they were great from start to finish. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, Rico, what were some of your instant reactions for episodes 7, 8, and 9?
Yeah, this was just some master television. This whole season has just been really great so far, but this just chunk of episodes right here has definitely been the best so far. And yeah, it just kind of goes to show how like a lot of big moments had to happen here in these episodes. They're going to be, because it's going to lead into the final 3 episode, which is obviously going to be the end of the series. So like we have to like start really ramping things up. So like it's of course it's a chunk of 3 episodes, but I still look at it as kind of like the penultimate finale, where like usually the episode before the finale is like very intense and has a lot of stuff going on. And I feel like this chunk of episodes can like take they all join together, all 3, to kind of take credit for that same kind of role. And yeah, so but man, one of the things I love, particularly in episode 7, because I would say of the 3 episodes, it's a little bit more the slower, more the setup episode before the next 2 parts come in. But there's a great scene in there with Cassian, Bix, and the Force Healer too. We kind of get like one of Cassian's, I guess, first like kind of encounters with somebody who's, I guess, is Force sensitive. That he's kind of like he's kind of getting the feeling that like they're not like a just kind of like your normal rebel soldier or nurse kind of a thing. Like he's having some shoulder issues given all the missions and stuff he had, and she just kind of gives a little touch, and then like and boom, he's like oh no, kind of feeling a little good. But she's also, there's a great little interaction between them, just talking about like his importance to the rebellion and stuff like that, how she kind of senses that within him, and it just kind of gives him a little bit more of a peace of mind. And then there's a great interaction between her and Bix as well. Just how long have you known? Like I haven't known life without Cassie and stuff. And ultimately, like this is a conversation that ultimately leads to Bix's big decision later on at the end of episode 9, when she leaves Cassian, of course, of 2, which was just freaking brutal. All he had to went through just so that just that one, for that one little moment of peace, and then of course, boom, gets the rug pulled out from under him again. So yeah, I just love that again. Just great character work again on the point of the writers too. I just think the way they've handled Cassian, Biggs, and just like his whole personal journey of like his role in the rebellion too. It's just been really well done. So yeah, really really cool on that part. Another thing that was and he showed up in the last chunk of episodes, I think, but very briefly, but I really have been enjoying Benjamin Bratt kind of filling in for Jimmy Smits as Bail Organa. I guess the reason they couldn't get Jimmy Smits was just kind of a scheduling thing, but if you're going to find somebody who's pretty similar looking and kind of fits that role of Bail Organa, I think Benjamin Bratt kind of like really well. And I just like seeing him and Mon Mothma are interacting in these episodes too. And again, just a character that's just kind of like doesn't get mentioned enough when it comes to like the main characters of Star Wars, but he has a major role, of course, in starting the rebellion. Of course, obviously being the adoptive father of Leia too. It's just kind of like really impactful, like seeing like some of his more like his final moments, because obviously we know his fate on Alderaan, of course, like on the first movie too, and we know that just that these events not stray too far from that as well. So just kind of seeing some of the big moments that are happening on in his life too, in the course of his role in starting the rebellion too, and just showing how vital of a player he was in starting this whole thing has been really cool too. So yeah, I've always enjoyed the way they've incorporated Bail Organa into like multiple stories throughout the Star Wars universe, and it always makes sense too. I think he's just a really cool character.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's and I know we've both said this. It's so cool that we're taking such a small moment in like the grand history of that we have of Star Wars stuff, and just filling in and adding so much context to what was the original trilogy, basically, type of thing. Like we had Rogue One that added all this context to episode 4, and now we've had 2 seasons of Andor that has added so much more context to Rogue One, which in turn adds even more context to episode 4. Like it's just it's awesome on how they can just really do that and do that so well. Like I remember before we even like the season came out and we were talking about this release schedule and we were like, this is crazy. This is crazy that they're doing these in chunks.
Even Tony Gilroy felt bad for the podcast. It was like, it's a pretty cool way to set it up because I feel bad for the podcasters. It's a lot for them to have to watch.
But it really does, like, it makes it so that each chunk can really, stand on their own also, like as just really good, episodes and stuff like that. But you don't have to 100% go from the end of the last chunk to the beginning of the next chunk because we have these time jumps. Type of thing, so they can
1 year each ramping up to the big battle.
Right, which means we can really concentrate on what that 3-episode arc is in each chunk instead of having to really, make sure that it makes sense when you end one episode of the end of one chunk and the beginning of the next chunk. Really, you know what I mean? Like they can be a little bit disconnected because there is a year in between. And obviously, even in real life, a lot changes in a year type of thing. So like you can have some jumps and then you can really take each one of these chunks as their own kind of thing, even though they're, in a larger story, they're all connected, but it's just like, it's
they each have a 3-act structure.
Right. Yeah. And it's a really cool way of doing things. And I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would when we were looking at this before the season started type of thing. I really enjoyed this kind of release schedule and viewing schedule, I guess, too, like watching schedule of it. So, but you want to get to some big takeaways?
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Why don't you kick off big takeaways?
There's so much to talk about in these 3 episodes, particularly episodes 8 and 9. Of course, episode 8 being the big Gorman massacre, episode 2, which is a big significant moment in Star Wars history, which has been mentioned before in other Star Wars mediums. It's mentioned, I think, in Star Wars Rebels, I think a couple times too. Yep. I know Gorman has a role in that show as well, but just the fact that we actually get to see this actually happen too. And it's not the first time something horrible has happened on this planet too, because they've talked about the Tarkin massacre where Tarkin landed a ship on a bunch of people too back in the past. So the fact that it's going through another kind of like even worse one massacre this time too was really brutal to see. But in the midst of all that chaos that's happening on Gorman too, which was one kind of set up by, I guess, Dedra Meero was kind of the one given the order to start it. But her boyfriend Cyril Karn is caught in the crossfires too of this whole thing. Who Cyril Karn's whole like character arc to me is just like a great example of just one the pecking order of the Empire and how each person is really just a pawn for the next person that's above them. So you go from Cyril to Dedra, and then you got Dedra to Partagaz, and then you got Partagaz answering the guys like Krennic and stuff like that. So and then when we see in Rogue One, we see even that Krennic's kind of the big dog here in the show, of course, like compared to other Empire people. But we see in Rogue One that he's even got people that kind of treat him as lowly scum too. So it's just like they're always kind of like just like their own enemies at the end of the day too. Yeah, it's just kind of interesting seeing how like especially for two people who had like a personal relationship too, but they also were also professional with each other at the same time. We kind of see the ramifications of that relationship in a pretty brutal way too, because she has they have him kind of infiltrate this rebel group, and then they eventually they make him as like a spy for the Imperials, of course, and then eventually comes to bite Cyril in the ass, and that's when Rylance shoots him. But it's in the middle of this moment where he sees Cassian about to take out Dedra with the sniper rifle, and then so he inadvertently saves like the woman that he loved. And then, obviously it leads to him getting killed at the same time too. But before it even happens, Cassian's like, who are you? Like, I don't even know who you are, basically, which is crazy because like obviously they've interacted before, going back to like the first set of episodes back on Ferrix. But like the fact that it's like it just kind of shows that one, Cyril is kind of like the lowest part of the totem pole when it comes to the Empire, like kind of pecking order, and how like a moment that was so significant in his life end up being something that was really not so significant in the grand scheme of what Cassian was doing too. Like he doesn't even remember Cassian or Cyril's face enough to where like this fight means anything to him. Like he's like, I'm here on a mission, and like who's this guy that's just attacking me that I don't even know? And then boom, Rylance comes and just out of nowhere takes him out. Like it's just kind of like it makes a lot of sense in a sad way for Cyril just to be like like boom, he's dead, and it's like oh it just kind of happens like that for him. So yeah, just kind of a crazy character arc for a character like him. And again, yeah, just a great example of just like the overall pecking order of the Empire and stuff. But yeah, for episode 8, that was really like the big like jaw dropping moment for me too. And as much as I hate his mother as a character, it was kind of brutal just seeing her on the couch crying after the whole thing. Just like, damn, dude, like she did love her son that much too. So like, yeah, just like overall sadness when it comes to that character in general. So yeah, but in episode 9, I guess really the big sequence for me, obviously, of course, is Cassian rescuing Mothma from the Senate after her big speech, of course, where she exposes the Empire for what they're really doing on Gorman and Jeddah and all these things too, and obviously naming Palpatine himself as like being the person responsible for it.
Right.
So obviously a big risky move on her part, which leads to them getting this big extraction mission out. But yeah, obviously, and also just seeing those two characters, I think it's the first time they've been on screen together, or if not, it's in this kind of a situation. It's obviously the first time Mon is being put in like a very tense kind of like fight or flight kind of a thing, right? But one moment I thought was like really crazy because always there's a couple moments where Cassian makes Mon like gas, like oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that. And the one that made me laugh the most is when not laugh the most, but the most like clever is when he asks her, what's your driver's name? Cloris. And he goes, Cloris, I got her. And then boom, just gets him. Like one, it's a great showing of like how Cassian was when we first meet him in Rogue One, which is he obviously he's like, give me the information, then boom, shoots the guy at the back. But yeah, it's just kind of just shows that one, like, you just gotta do whatever it takes to get the person out of there, of course. Obviously using the code words to gain her trust, of course, and then obviously seeing that he still has to do some dirty work to get her out of there. Like, yeah, now she's in the thick of the rebellion now, which I thought was like, yeah, here we go. Now we're really off to the races because they had to get a huge senator out in this big publicized kind of a speech type of thing. And now it's like, here we go. The rebellion is going to be kind of like broadcast a little bit here. And it's really cool because it leads to her being able to set up a similar speech that she does in Star Wars Rebels, which is basically saying kind of the same stuff. She goes over the same talking points, but she's broadcasting her message to a wider kind of a broadcast too, like more people in the galaxy can hear it too. So it's a big speech that happens in Rebels, which is pretty cool. But I just kind of like the way they kind of make their efforts to kind of tie in those two events because again, those are two shows that are kind of running along in the same timeline too. So yeah, just a really cool little tie-in as far as like those two things that you wouldn't expect. I wouldn't expect a show like Andor to be like, yeah, we're doing like this tiny little nod and tie-in to Rebels as well with the Gorman stuff. So yeah, there's just so much that I loved here too.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and I agree with both of those. I mean, the first thing I was gonna say was it was a very interesting interaction between Cassian and Cyril.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I wanted, like, because in my head, like I said, always looking for a coping mechanism. I kind of wanted to get a recreation of you remember the Always Sunny meme where Charlie and Mac look across the restaurant at each other.
Oh yeah, this is right at me.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to get that. I just wanted to get them looking at each other and making eye contact. We don't really even see Cassian even like see Cyril in the crowd.
No, he gets blindsided by him.
Yeah, all of a sudden he just like basically tackles him, and I don't even know if like you were saying he was trying to stop Cassian from like
well, he inadvertently does it. He's really like in a kind of state of despondence after seeing what's kind of going on because one, he doesn't like he had to kind of take part in that in the first place. That's why he puts his hands on Dedra before that anyway too. So they're kind of already done. Right. But he just sees Cassian, who one, he just brings back all those bad memories of him originally losing his job as a cop back on Molana back in the first episodes of the first season. Yeah. So it's like someone who's caused his life so much strife, and he finally sees him right there, and he just blindly attacks him and doesn't even realize that he just saved Dedra's life at the same time.
It was like the in Endgame in that final fight where Thanos goes, I don't even know who you are.
Tawanda.
yeah, I don't even know you.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the other thing I was gonna say is scary Cyril is scary. Like angry Cyril is scary. Mm-hmm. He was like about to choke Dedra out. Like
he was not happy with her.
He lost it, like type of thing, like towards the very end, and he was just like, I'm out. Like,
just not what I signed up for, type of thing. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, exactly like what you said with Cassian getting Mon Mothma out, like that was complete, like the level of tension and thriller aspect of things and suspense. That's where the soundtrack like was really like in it, was like when they were trying to get out of like that building and stuff.
The one fake extractor who's like kind of like trying to get her to
Right.
that whole thing was just set up so good.
Oh yeah, that was great. I loved that. I loved that whole part of the. I mean, the whole episode 9 was great, but like that huge chunk of it was really really good. But yeah, we finally got 2 parts of what I've been asking for, kind of the entire time. Not only do we get kind of we got the all of the robots, all of the bad versions. Yeah, the KX, but all of I just called them evil K2s. I was like, oh, it's evil K2 and all of his twin brothers. But we get them just flinging people.
Bro, yeah, poor Rylance's daughter, who she just gets thrown. I'm like, oh, and then she's dead. And you're like, oh man, okay, dang, that's a brutal throw.
Yeah. But then like we get somebody what you think is kind of like it's just we're rescuing Cassian because clearly Cassian can't die. But then when Cassian goes, hold on, help me out with this for a second.
Yeah, and the woman. Yeah,
I was like, oh, is this it? Is this it? And then they bring the K2 unit or the KX unit onto what Cassian's using to get out of the area. And I was like, we got that. We got the moment. We got the moment. Like K2 is not there. It's not K2 right now. But we got that moment. And I thought that was awesome enough. And then the end of episode 9, we get an even better moment than that.
If I've offended you, I apologize. If not, I'd appreciate you pointing that elsewhere.
And so we get the very first interaction between K2 and Cassian. And that is 100% what I was looking forward to. Now, I still would hope to get more, but I just love that we got those 2 small moments already. Like, like in there. I love the way we got them because they completely made sense in context in the episodes and stuff like that. But I just love that we got those 2 parts in this chunk, because this is exactly what I wanted. I didn't want it like at the very very end, because their relationship is so already established in Rogue One that I didn't want to just get it and then it be throwaway and then like, oh, we've been working together for years. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I like that we got that introduction in this chunk before the finale chunk type of thing. And I was just
especially after the heartbreak of Biggs leaving too, and him like trying to find any kind of chance that she might still be there. And then of course, like, you're like, damn, that's really fucking sucks. That if we're gonna end this on such a bummer, and then the guy comes in like, Cassian, like, we gotta work or whatever it is. And you're just like, oh,
we're gonna power it on.
Here we go. Like he may have lost something, but he's gaining something else at the end of losing something. So he may have lost Biggs, but now he's getting his buddy K2 at the end of the day. So like that's kind of cool. That's a pretty nice way to reveal him at the end of the day.
Right. But yeah, I got what I wanted. I thought that was great. I can't say enough how much I enjoyed this chunk and how excited I am for the finale chunk. But you want to get to some predictions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to kick off predictions. And I mean, pretty much more of the same. I really hope we do get, some Cassian and some K2, in this finale chunk, obviously, because this finale chunk is supposed to lead right into the events of Rogue One, where they are already established, they are already a team working together, a very tight team in the sense of K2 didn't even want to let Jen Erso into the group, basically. Like, it was too exclusive of a group with K2 and Cassian type of thing. So like I really do hope we get a little bit of that in the finale. Like, I know there's a lot we have to do in the finale chunk. I get it.
A lot to wrap up.
Right. Just here and there. Like him, working with K2 and stuff like that. I would really enjoy that. The other thing is, because I really don't have exactly predictions. I kind of, there's some characters that I'd be interested to see if we see or get any hints at. Darth Vader. Like, what if we get like like, have we even got him mentioned? Like, we had Emperor Palpatine mentioned multiple times in this past chunk, but like, have we had Darth Vader mentioned at all in this season or series in general?
No, because I think he would be with Tarkin. I don't know if they've mentioned Tarkin a lot either. Like, at
They
this point,
definitely
he's doing his own thing, like
right.
whatever his. But it's all before that whole interaction with them and Krennic in Rogue One too as well. So
Right. But
yeah,
so
they could be just like on their own kind of a mission. He could still be dealing with the Inquisitors at some point or something like that. Like we know at one point in Rogue One that he's on like his Mustafar castle, because that's
right.
where Krennic goes to meet him. So he could just be hanging out there for a little while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one. I'm interested if we're going to get a reference to him or, potentially see him for a second on like, not in person, but maybe like a holo screen or something like that. The other thing is I'm interested if we're going to get any references to, I don't think they would call it the Death Star, but any references to, what they're building and stuff like that, because Rogue One, it's pretty much done at that point. Like during the progression of the Rogue One movie, like, done.
So we get that shot from the end of season 1 too that shows that what they were making on Narkina 5, the prison, was actually parts for the Death Star as well. And it was pretty cool. They were just putting in like the kind of dented in disc part, the inverted part. Yeah. So that it should be pretty near close to completion by this point.
Yeah, so I'm curious if we're gonna get any references to that also, and you know what I mean, like just because like leading into this finale chunk, because it's supposed to butt up right into the events of Rogue One, so connecting the dots. And then I'd be really interested is where is Leia right now, because we saw, like you said, we saw her adopted father in episode 9, and in episode 4, she is already captured at the beginning. She gets captured.
Yeah.
So where is she right now? Like from now until like through the events of Rogue One, where is she? So it'd be interesting if we saw, because she's already working for the rebellion. By the time episode 4 is there, she's captured because they know she works for the rebellion, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious if we're going to see any interactions with her, or at least get references of her from the rebellion members that we've kind of already seen. Like if any of them are going to like say something like, "Oh, it's our new contact," or we're making contact with, Princess Organa or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Well, because again, if we go back, because her showing up at the end of Rogue One, of course, when they hand her the plans after the whole Vader massacre thing. So we know that she was either on the Radis or on the I think the Tantive 4, I think is the name of the ship, where they, when we the first ship we ever see in the first movie too, that's running away from the Star Destroyer.
Right.
That's the way it badges, and then they go off into to hyperspeed. So I don't know if maybe they docked on, they transferred the ships, and then they left or whatever it is. So who knows if she's either on Alderaan still at this point, and then she's about to leave, and then kind of joined up before, like maybe before Bale goes back to Alderaan, he sends Leia out like in his place or something like that. Who knows? But it'd be interesting if they kind of touched on something like where they are leading up to that. But I think those characters being set where they are just kind of like is where those. Like we already know where they're going to be when they're needed. I guess is where it says too.
Yeah,
so, who knows?
I'm just wondering because they've done such a good way of kind of incorporating these little Easter eggs here and there by not making them such a big deal, but having them there, like you were saying, like with some Easter eggs, like ties to Rebels and here and there with other stuff. I don't need anything crazy. Like I don't need Princess Leia to show up, and I don't need like Darth Vader to show up, but just like little breadcrumbs here and there. And I think they've done such a good job of that through this entire series that I think it would just be interesting. It would just be a little added, extra. And the last is Jen Erso. Like I when we start Rogue One, I know I've said this in a past recap for even this season already. I believe she is already a prisoner. In the start of Rogue One.
Yeah, she's in a jail cell. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Who
I'm
knows for how long that she's been there?
right.
Point,
But I'm wondering if we'll get a reference to that, or if we'll, maybe even see her cross paths with somebody else. Like, obviously not Cassian, because the first time that they meet is during the events of Rogue One.
Mhm.
But like anyone else we have been following, like Galen
Yeah, that's a person. Yeah,
type of thing. Like,
who ties into very much of the plot of what's going on right now. Too.
Exactly. So like, I'm just wondering, like, if we'll see or get references or something like that. Like I said,
that's the one I've wanted to see since the beginning of the season is a possible Galen thing too. If they did something with Krennic or something like that, that'd be kind of sick.
Yeah, I mean, we have that, and that's a half step away from Jenner, so which we're getting mostly in Rogue One. But yeah, I just think it would be really cool. And like I said, I'm not asking for a whole bunch of screen time or anything like that. But like I said, they've already done such a good job of weaving in these little tiny Easter eggs and these little nods to other things that like this is the finale. I have a lot of faith that they can do it, not in a hey, we just said Darth Vader. Did you like that? Like,
right.
You know what I mean? Like, I just
you said it.
I just feel like they could do such a good job, and so like that's just kind of like on my list of things that would just add that little extra, like, oh, that's incredible. I can't believe they said that, or oh, that's where they are right now. Like type of thing would be cool. That's all. Right. I have full faith that the finale chunk is going to be awesome, and I've already told you I am already itching to watch Rogue One. And I'm holding off until I finish the finale chunk just so I can go right into the events of Rogue One and really just get the full effect of it. But yeah, I'm very excited for the finale. But Rico, what are some of your predictions, heading in the finale chunk, or about anyone you would actually like to hear a reference of or potentially see before the end of this series, basically?
Yeah, so one, I'll just be straight up up front because we're recording this. It's a little bit later after the last chunk of episodes have already been released, and I couldn't wait, and I already watched them. But I'm not saying anything, and I'm not hinting at anything. I haven't hinted at anything that you guys are going to see in the chunk. So I've done my due diligence there as far as that concerned. So as far as like predicting, like how the show will end, of course, I'm not going to say anything as far as that is going. But I will say that at the end of I think episode 9, of course, we're kind of doing like another kind of like we do another kind of introduction of another character. I think through Bix's kind of like video letter to Cassian, we get a shot of the blaster that Vel picks up, and then a character sticks his head out and goes, "Oh, that's my blaster." That character is Melshi, who is one. He's in the prison with Andor on Arcana 5 that they all the one way out scene when they all escape. And then when they reach the surface, that's like the guy who's with them, and then they kind of part their separate ways on that planet. So and he also actually ends up becoming a soldier in the Rogue One movie too. So he's actually someone they had brought back from the Rogue One movie, and then kind of showed like his role and his relationship with Cassian kind of leading up to this. So he's a really cool character that again, since we have the introduction of K2 K2SO officially here, like kind of officially coming online. Cassian's got like he's got like a nice little group of homies that he's got on Yavin 4 too. He's got Wellman, he's got K2S, so he's got Melshi there, so he's got Vel and all them there. So like he's got a good like solid group of people there that he can still rely on too. So it's really cool that like all these people that he's interacted with throughout the course of the show are now like all congregating like in this big place on Yavin 4, because again things are ramping up to the big battle. And then now just again even watching episode 4 back when you go to the base on Yavin 2 with like when Luke and all them are all there, like wow, all these characters could literally still be there. Vel could be there. All these people could still be there possibly if they're still around. So yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, so I just love that aspect of it. And yeah, so I'm just really kind of excited to see like where people's place will be leading into this show. And like then when again, like you said, when you watch Rogue One, like, oh man, now when this is going on, I know where this character possibly is, or if what this character could have been if they were still around, or one of those type of things. So yeah, it's really kind of crazy. Like to kind of watch with that kind of perspective too.
Oh yeah, it's awesome, and just like I was saying earlier, like this series now adds so much more context to Rogue One, just like Rogue One adds so much more context to Episode 4. Like it's just awesome that they were able to do this and kind of backwards build that, and then now build in more context for
The idea of like the Rebels crew being there
Right.
at some point, like it's like Chopper being there around the same time as like a Cassian Andor. To me, it just is really funny because obviously Chopper had like a little cameo in Rogue One too, so you already know that those characters are all kind of cross sections at one point. So yeah, it's really cool to know that all those people at one point probably like just came through all that base and probably like made eye contact with each other or something like that, just passing through or something. Like it's just so cool.
Yeah. I love all of those little teeny tiny things that we can look for. And I have not watched the finale chunk yet. So
Yeah,
I am very excited to watch that and then to, recap it all together and kind of do that and then lead right into Rogue One, because that's exactly what I want to do. And we've kind of already been discussing this. We may do a retro recap of Rogue One and just kind of be able to kind of see, like, talk about it with fresh eyes now that we have more context from the first 2 seasons or the 2 seasons of this series.
Yeah, almost treated like a proper Andor finale in a sense.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. But yeah. And we will be back here next week recapping it after I've actually watched it. But in the meantime, as we always say, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of 7, 8, and 9? And what are you hoping to see during the finale? And what characters are you most interested in either hearing about, potentially seeing, and kind of seeing what context they now put them in going into Rogue One and then going into the original trilogy? And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Popping Off presents That Recap Show.